Hello, everyone. This is Valerie McSorley bringing you another episode of CX Tech Talks, where we bridge the gap between AI and CX. This series is sponsored by Zappix, and I am delighted to bring you one of the most knowledgeable people in this space. Jim Iyoob from Etech is here with me. Jim, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Valerie. Thank you so much for having me. It is a blessed Friday for both of us.
Yes, it is. It's a big day. It's a big day. And you are someone that I have gotten to know a little bit better over the conference circuit. And I love listening to you. First of all, we're going to have a great session because you are so knowledgeable about so many different things, especially in this space. I could think of nobody better that to interview today. But not only, I just want to say, not only do you truly know, like, I'm blown away with your content, but you will also have this delivery, which you just season in these awesome little tidbits about your hobbies, about your family, your daughter, your wife, the slot machine you bought her, and you're just very funny and engaging. So I love
Thank
listening to
you.
you, but you really have a pulse on the topic right now and just the explosion of AI and how the space is changing so rapidly. So the first question I want to ask you, because you have such a great delivery, how would you explain AI to your mother?
So, geez, my mom, that's a great one. So, like, I'd have to go into like a cooking mode because my mom was Sicilian and she
Okay.
used to cook for hours upon hours upon hours, slicing the tomatoes, doing everything, hundreds upon hundreds of ingredients. Well, not ingredients, pieces for the ingredients. And I would tell her, Mom, instead of doing this, you can go out and buy a can with crushed tomatoes. You can buy tubes of tomato paste now because really all AI is big data. It's massive amounts condensed into an easier way to actually manage the business.
And that she would get that. Okay.
She would
But
get
what
that.
but would she, because I'm thinking of a mom that likes to cook. Would she say, but you're cutting corners? That's not the way. It's processed. It's not going to be as good, as authentic as when I make my real sauce. So how would you
Yeah,
answer that?
great question. I would say, but mom, human beings make mistakes because you've forgotten to put your tomatoes or you've forgotten to put your onion in there. And then sometimes you forget to take that whole onion out to get rid of that acidity thing. So just like
Mhm.
you make mistakes, machines make mistakes. But what you are getting is time back into your day to do the things you love. So instead of you spending 2 hours in prep, now you can actually go out and spend time with your grandkids, do all this fun stuff, and still get a high level of confidence that it would be really, really good and your recipe would still be excellent.
Awesome. Love that. Love that. So how can you apply this to your family? How can organizations take that recipe and start to incorporate AI in meaningful ways? There's a lot of excitement around it. There's also a lot of fear and anxiety and hesitation. So how are you guiding your clients?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I think the problem with AI is if we really want to peel the onion back, this is no different than big data. That's remember
Mhm.
that big, back in the
Yeah.
day we're on the circuit, everybody talked about big data. That's really all it is. And I think the opportunity we have, not only from the agent though, because I really believe in my heart, 90 some percent of the people who come to work for you want to do a good job.
Yes.
And we all claim that we're giving them the tools to be successful. We all claim that we're coaching them. But are we really? How often are we coaching that agent in a manual environment? Let's say you're in the top 10% and you're doing 3 coaching sessions per agent per week. So now I'm measuring your performance in a 40-hour week based on, let's just say, 2 to 3 phone calls. And then I tell people, so let me ask you this. Imagine you as an executive or a manager or a director. What if your boss took one day out of the year, and let's say it was a bad day, and basically dinged you for all those things you did bad in that one day and didn't count the other 300 that you did great stuff? And that's really the problem. So what I like to tell people is, listen, you're going to get a lot more data, number one, which is great. And data is not the key. The key is what you do with it, right?
Mm,
So if I
yes.
have all this data and I go to Valerie and I sit down and say, hey, Valerie, in today's world, I'd listen to a call and you're going to tell me, because first of all, you're already defensive because you're going to tell me that I'm out to ding you and I'll get you what you're doing wrong, because that's the real world we live in. I started my career as an agent. I get it. And then you're going to tell me your dog got run over by a car today and that's why you're not on your game. So I really got nowhere to go as a manager, because I gotta show some empathy, right? Because otherwise you're going to be in HR. But now let's take it in AI world. Hey, Valerie, I just listened to and I observed, or I have analyzed 100 of your interactions, and you're only effective at displaying empathy 26% of the time. You could tell me that your dog got run over today, and I can say, I'm so sorry for that, but let's talk about this. Was on 100 interactions, not three, not two, not it was 100. So this is a pattern. So I'm
Hmm.
here to help you bring this. I know you're amazing and I want to bring this out to you. And I will tell you at Etech, our agents are actually happier because I'm not looking at that snapshot of time. I'm looking at it over days, weeks, or whatever I'm coaching you on. And now you really have nowhere to go to say it was just that call. It was a bad day, because it's more data, more interactions, and our agents actually here are liking that approach. And the bottom line is, I'm going to teach you how to make more money.
Mm. So let me ask you though, because with these tools that we have, you hit on something that's really interesting. Most contact centers don't have the right tools. They don't have the information at conversational speed to give agents what they need to do to perform their best. And then they're blaming them. Everybody
Correct.
has a bad day. And you're highlighting, yes, you're cherry picking what could be the worst ones. And it's a very, very, very tough job, right? They're managing all these screens, these like cranky phone calls, all of these problems. And then here you come and you pick the one lousiest call of the week to highlight, and it's just piling on. Like, I often wonder, some of these agents, if you can get them to come back 2 days in a row, they should be celebrated, because it is a demanding job. Now, the tools are there. Why aren't organizations putting the best tools in front of their people, knowing that's the problem? And in a way, blaming the agent when it's really their responsibility to give them the tools to do their best work.
Yeah, because I think a lot of them don't know what to do with it yet.
Yeah.
So if we think about a frontline manager, leader, whatever, we don't call anybody managers here. We call them coaches, because we believe everybody needs a coach, right?
Yes.
Myself included. I have an executive coach that works for us, Melissa, who's our Dean of Leadership Development. Her only job is to develop leaders. And I think the problem is, if you look at the job description for a frontline leader, nowhere in there does it say, I have to be a data scientist, I have to
Mm.
be a data analyst, and I need to understand data, because we're hiring them for what? Coaching. So let's think about it. I remember my early days when I was promoted. And you're right, we have the tools. Now, if I'm new, I was an agent and I got promoted, and my boss comes to me and says, hey, listen, you need to go out and coach some people today. Oh, yeah, yeah, I'm all over it, boss. I'm new. Do you think I'm going to tell him I don't know what to do? No, I'm going to try and wing it. And it's not going to be effective. So when I do talk about tools, you have to arm the leaders with how to use the tool. And I think that's where we miss the boat a lot. I think some companies miss it because they say, and you know the market, hey, I'm going to remove all your QA people. I'm going to throw you this thing, and it's going to solve all your problems. It's the biggest lie in the industry. It kills me that these speech companies come to me and tell me they're going to replace all my people with AI. And I'm like, no, you're not. Yes, I am, because it's going to automate everything. That machine is only as good as the person that programmed it, number one. Okay. It's not Ron Popeil's rotisserie where you set it and forget it. It's an evolution. And then what I say is, now, because these guys have all told me this, well, once I tell you what's wrong, your manager should be able to go fix it. Mm, they should. You're right. But we've also promoted people into roles that probably shouldn't have been promoted out of a need for the business because we were growing. So let's be honest here. How do we equip them to actually make an impact? Because if you talk to an agent who gets coached and somebody goes out and says, "Hey, you need more sales, Valerie," no kidding. Like that's not coaching. So what we like to do is come in and give it to them in bite-sized pieces. So we're going to go in and say, "Hey, here's who you should coach. Here's what you should coach and behavior based, and here's how you do it." Now, a lot of people tell me, "Well, that's like stupidity. Like, why would you be telling your coaches how to coach?" Because you said we're going to equip them and tell them what they need to do, but you can't tell them if they don't know how. You
Right.
need to give them a solid plan, and that's really what's missing it. And I will tell you, most agents want feedback,
Yes.
but they don't want feedback when you just say, "Hey, you're not doing this well." They want to know, "Okay, smart pants, if you're so smart, tell me how to do it." And that's where I think we dropped the ball.
There's something else I want to mention just quickly, where I think that also needs to be somewhat addressed. Many of these leaders are promoted from within, and
Mm-hmm.
then they are in the position that they've gone from peer to leader with their former peers, and now they're the boss. And that can be a difficult transition to navigate. And navigating that with all of a sudden, they have to have this new confidence, all the knowledge in the world, a grace about it. And I see people definitely, I see struggles with that.
Yeah, we all see struggles with that. And that's why we have a dedicated dean of leadership development for that reason. Because think about
Very
it, we
smart.
might we might be coming to work together. So if I'm carpooling with you, how effective is my coaching going to be? So you need to actually teach them. So now you're the leader.
Right.
This is what's different. And again, it's not about me being a boss because there's a difference between a leader and a manager. We all know that, right?
Absolutely.
How do
Yes.
I embrace my skill set of why I got promoted, how I can coach, and not offend, not disrespect you, but actually as an agent, teach you that, listen, I know you're frustrated. You got 2,600 calls over the last 6 months, of which 20% were yelling at you. Don't take it personal. They're not yelling at you. Okay, they're yelling because they're frustrated. So how can you diffuse that situation? Well, let me give you the tools that's going to help you, because at the end of the day, the reason they're frustrated is something happened, something broke.
Mm-hmm.
So when they call you or text you or email you, all they want is the problem solved,
Yes.
right? So if you could teach them how to elegantly show empathy and actually fix the problem, then you've actually solved someone's problem. Your heart will start growing because you've solved the problem. It's not about you, it's about helping somebody else. And when you look at a serve mentality, and my job is to serve others,
Mm-hmm.
you will, not everybody, because I do know there's people out there that don't believe in this philosophy, but most of the people, when they serve others, they are going to get happiness out of it. And that's the culture that you're building in the contact center versus the old days of do as I say, not as I do. You have to walk the talk. You have to, you have to walk it, be able to demonstrate it, and you have to care about them. And when you do that, when they know you care, they will care for your customers.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that starts from the top down, just as you're saying. So that's absolutely, leaders lead. It's a big difference between a boss and a leader. Leaders, they don't even need the title. You would follow them to the
Nope.
ends of the earth because you know, that they care, that they want to help you. And I think the good organizations, they know where the weak points are and can help and empower their agents to do what they need to do to solve for in the problem. Like the front line always knows where there's a problem way before the C-suite. So
Absolutely.
having that, like they are the boots on the ground. But I want to ask you, we talk about AI and everybody's got a different solution. Quite frankly, the term is just being thrown at everyone. You need AI, you're going to run towards this goal. AI starts with automation, right? So how are you automating across your client base to just start small?
Yeah, it's a great question because that's what the tech companies don't want to hear me say. Because
Right.
they
That's why I'm
all
asking.
tell, yeah, they all tell me the same thing. I can automate everything. Yeah, not really. So let's talk about automation. So I tell customers crawl, walk, run. So
Mhm.
first and foremost, I'm not letting any tech guy tell me what to automate because I ask them all the time, when's the last time you taken a phone call? When's the last time you listened to a phone call? When's the last time you stepped foot in the call center? When's the last time you turned your light on in your office as you're coding these things? So here's the problem. The problem is people think they can automate anything and they're thinking about it from themselves. Where I say, let's talk to the customer. And by using speech analytics, your customers will tell you everything they love about you, everything they hate about you, your people, your processes, and your
Mhm.
technology. So what we do is leverage that data and then go to our customer and say, hey, by the way, did you know 42% of your customers called today asking if this shirt comes in blue or red? This can be automated because
Yes.
you really don't need these calls coming in to answer these simple questions. And that's how you do the crawl, walk, run. And I will give you, there's examples all over the world. I used to use, I think her name was Alex at United back in the day. It's the first, they came out with the first automation. You would ask it questions like I would, because I'm a traveler, right? It was clueless. It just frustrated me even more because somebody said, we can automate all these responses. The problem is you were never a customer. You never sat in the consumer side. So the questions I was asking, you did not program properly. But if you have the conversations, that's how you automate. I already know what they're asking, and I already know what the best of the best agents are saying. So that's how you automate and build it to be sufficient, effective, and now you can scale it.
Well, also simple use cases that don't require an agent's time, like a password reset or an order status or initiating a return. Very simple things
Yep.
that don't need a human being to do. So let me ask you that from your perspective, from your business perspective, a big part of the problem is who owns the tech right now, right? Especially when you're working at BPOs. So, that's a huge problem. And the lawsuits are starting. The lawsuits are starting. I won't name names, but a major retailer just had a very significant lawsuit. And it turns out, as I see it, consumers have the brand promise with the brand. The consumers do not know that you really are outsourcing these calls to,
Correct.
maybe wherever, onshore, offshore. They don't understand that. They don't know that. So that also increases the friction points because then, well, maybe I bought it on this website. Well, that's a third party sale. Well, I bought it from you. So who do I go to? And there's a lot of this, right? So,
Yep.
when we're talking about leveraging these technologies now, how are you managing that? Because who does own the tech, and how do you give that experience to all the different clients that you service?
Yeah, let me upset 50% of your listeners today. I
Okay.
disagree with the entire industry. They all think tech should be owned by IT people. I disagree 100%. Not because they're not smart, but they're clueless in the operations of the business. And I'm sure there's some out there. That's why I said half, right? At Etech, I have a committee. It's based on ops people, my
Mm-hmm.
analysts, right? My engineers who technically aren't really part of IT. They actually roll up into the CX organization. And then you got your tech people. Tech people are impressed by fancy dashboards, fancy looking things, and the sales guy who, by the way, is in a three-piece suit selling you and taking you to the Spurs games and taking you all over the world and basically saying, man, this tech's gonna. That's the problem. There's no domain expertise in the IT world. IT, yes. When you're talking about solutions for operations, you should have a team of people who are actually in operations along with the people who understand the data. So I disagree that it belongs in tech. And it's so funny because all these companies that come to me because they know my stance, right? Of why I'm the guy who's trying to make the decision. But it's funny because I do see companies I'm going after, and the first thing these inexperienced sales guys say to me, well, who's in charge of your IT? What difference does it make? Well,
Mm-hmm.
we want to get him on. Why do I want him on the call? And that's where I say Bye. Because that's the problem. If it is has how I see it. Now, let's talk about your lawsuit, because I do know who you're talking about. Let's be perfectly clear.
Okay.
My daughter is 22. Okay. And she just graduated from UTSA. She's on her way to law school. And she uses this little tool called ChatGPT, which, by the way, you and I never had in school. I'm just so disgusted. I had to read the book. So I use about 6 different large language models and AI assist tools, and they're great. And I encourage her to use them. They're not always right, by the way. But if you look at what people are doing, they're using these third-party plugins to do AI and create canned responses. And I'm not saying it's a bad idea. Legally, you're taking someone else's data, which is the phone call, and you're training someone else's machine without their consent.
Yes.
It's no different than the old do not call laws. And if I call in the state of Florida, as you know, I got to say, hey, I need 2-party consent that I'm going to record the call. I have to throw something out there that says I'm recording this call for quality assurance. And if you're not doing that, and you're trading a large language model that's not your own, that's what's going to cause the lawsuit. That's why here at Etech, all mine's in closed loop. I'm not training anything. All my stuff's staying inside. I'm not going out to ChatGPT, Claude, and dropping all the. I'm not going out to them. I'm actually building our own so that I am secure and that your data is secure. And I think that's why you're going to see much more lawsuits, because people think they can build these things by themselves. And basically, I'll just plug into the API at ChatGPT. I'll just plug into this, and that's dangerous. And by the way, not to mention, it's not always accurate, because let's also be clear on what's training them. The internet is what they're being trained on. So articles from the New York Times, articles from this. When's the last time you heard a call coming into a contact center that sounded like someone who wrote in the New York Times? You haven't, because consumers don't talk like that. So that's the other opportunity in the industry, which is why you want to actually have someone who has that domain expertise to understand the jargon and all the stuff that we use in the contact center that most people in the tech world don't understand.
Well, you bring up a good point about that ring security piece, because I think that is wildly it's critical, obviously, but you want to have safe, secure, and smart usage of all of these things. But I do want to pick a bone with you. When you say, you talked about salespeople trying to not include IT, I've seen the other side of that, where there's a great solution and then IT wasn't invited to the party and too far down the road with conversations, and now IT doesn't want to be involved and they find every reason to kill dreams. So
that's a valid point. I can speak to the solution of that. So our CISO,
so it's a tightrope to walk.
It is
a delicate balance. And what you're saying, I'm like, I don't know. IT doesn't like to find out too late, and they're very good at throwing up roadblocks once they feel that they haven't been at some of those brainstorming sessions.
100%. However, what I do is I trust my IT partners to vet it out from a security perspective, a compliance perspective, and making sure, it's going to do what we tell it's going to do, right? So I don't bring my IT guys in. I tell them, hey, I'm going to vet this technology out. If I like what I see, I want you to start vetting them for security, making sure it doesn't, because we're ISO 27001, we're SOC 2. I have to make sure I do include IT, but I don't want, and it's a fair. I don't want IT telling me what to use. I do want their support from a security perspective and making sure it's going to keep us clean, right? And no lawsuits. But I really don't want their input, and it's terrible to say, I don't want their input on an operational side of it, because again, your expertise is what? Technology. Our expertise is what? Running an operation. So how do you get those both companies or both departments to merge? And that's what we do at Etech. And you're right. I just tease on them, like, I do have to involve them. but not from the decision. Their decision making is going to be for me on security, right? And I tell them what I expect it to do, and sure, vet that out all day long. But as far as an operational, because I will tell you, I've been with Etech for 24 years. Okay,
Wow.
I've been through this thing before, where IT also goes out and buys stuff that's going to solve all my problems. It didn't solve any of my problems.
Right. Right.
Right. So I think we here are different. Remember, we have a huge culture here. Our culture is very servant led, serve others, and all that kind of stuff. And it really helps because now you can have a true partner to help you. Hey, I'm no expert in security. I am an expert at AI and analytics, and I know what I want. This one looks good on the surface level. I want you to dig in now and tell me if it's secure. And that's really where the partnership comes in. Because we bought technology that's, I remember my first early couple years here. They bought a new dialer, we'll call it. We won't name names, to your point. And the dialer said it's going to be the best thing since sliced bread. As an ops guy, I'm pulling reports. I'm running operations. Every report I pulled had a different number. So I'm arguing now, which one do I go by? I ended up having, and I'll never forget this, I had a binder 6 thick of examples of me pulling a report every day. Every day it was wrong. Every day it was different. And based on the same exact time frame, same exact report, I'm getting 2 different numbers. And I had to go to my IT partner and say, dude, I can't run my business because this report says this report says that. Because, by the way, it looked great, felt great, but the data was wrong. I can't I can't hold an agent accountable for inaccurate data. And there are excuses, and not them, the company, which, by the way, we fired, but the company kept saying, well, it's different. What do you mean it's different? Handle time is handle time. If I'm pulling handle time, my handle time should be the exact same thing, regardless what report I use. And then I remember their tech guy, I'm arguing with her, and she's saying, no, because when you pull it from here, it pulls from here. When you pull this, it pulls from here. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life.
No, that doesn't even make sense. That's so very clear. That's a very clear measurement. A to B. There's not much way to go, and there's all kinds of word salad and explanations, but that's not one of the measurements that you cannot accurately pinpoint. That's
absolutely
wild.
And the same thing with calls, right? Same thing. And my call counts were different based on what report. So apparently, someone who built the tables, and we know this. I went to school for computer programming, so we're clear. I haven't been in the AI space. My background's computer programming. Somebody built a table that was not accurate. That's really what happened. And that's okay. Admit it, fix it, and move on. But they refused to do that. So then our CTO at the time fired them because they wouldn't fix it. But that's how you get both of them. Hopefully I answered your question. I don't alienate them because I still need them to secure me. But that's what I do. That's the difference. Like just right, I would hope my IT guy wouldn't call me to ask me because he gets unbelievable security stuff. There's technology out there now that will detect a cell phone. We have clean rooms, so it'll detect cell phones. You don't need me for that. I think that's great. Have a blast.
Funny. All right. I can talk to you all day, but I want to ask you one final thing. No, sure. It's too fun. You have to come back and spend more time with me. But I want to ask you one final question. And as I want you to put your mindset in a leadership role, you are running the contact center, you're the VP of the contact center, and you've got the C-suite breathing down your neck that they've got to bring AI solutions to the table, which everyone is. Where do you guide them to start?
Well, I would guide them to start small, right? Because I disagree with, and the AI companies, you need to ingest all your calls. No, you don't. You really don't. You need a percentage of them. And I would say instead of us making all of our business decisions based on what my gut tells me, or based on what Sally Mae on the street tells me that's going on in the call center, wouldn't it be a great way to start small? Let's go ahead and take 10% of the calls, 20% of the calls, and let's make our decisions on data-driven decisions versus how we feel, because we're all feely people in our business, as you know. So I would tell them to start small And then I would tell them you can make your decisions based on facts, data. Data doesn't lie. Data tells you the story. And then that's really how I would start it. And the reason people want 100% of their call volume is they're selling a technology, right? And it's funny because I hear people all the time say, "Yeah, I'm getting 100% ingestion. I'm not really getting anything out of it." Well, what are you doing with the data? Well, it's a dashboard. It's this. It's that. Well, you have to. The biggest thing that I've seen in the industry with the mistake, which is what I would caution people on, you haven't done anything with 3 calls you're listening to. So if you get 1 million in, what do you think you're going to do with that fire hose of data? That's why I always say start small. Just get a little bit more. If I get 10x, 20x of what I'm doing today, that's manageable. And the other thing I would tell them is to pick 3 things that keep you up at night. Not
Yes.
100, 3. These are the 3 things that are going to move the needle. Once you move the needle, it's easy at the C-suite to actually get more buy-in because your CFO who's breathing down your neck saying, how much are you spending and where's my return on investment? If you go out and try to fix all the problems, you'll never get there. So pick 3 that are measurable and then keep moving it. That would be my coaching to anybody who's looking to get into it.
Perfect. Perfect. And on that note, thank you so much.
Oh, it's my
Thank
pleasure.
you. This is so fun. You've got great insights, great knowledge, your delivery style. I mean, you're one of my favorites to see in person because you just got to strap your seatbelt in those conference rooms. So you never know where you're taking it. And as an attendee, I enjoy that. So thank you. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you so much. I'm humbled to be on your podcast, and I do appreciate it. We will have you at my house for dinner, and I'm going to teach you how to make sushi your next trip to San Antonio.
What don't you do, Jim? What don't you do? Well,
I like to eat.
Next fall. I'll be there next fall. We'll be back on that stage with Bruce and Benchmark Portal, and then we'll go and make sushi afterwards. Sounds like quite an adventure, and it's always an adventure. I can't wait. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.